We'll get it out of the road, the exploitation permit, the make or break for Bankan. It'll either be Bankan or Bankan-not.
It just doesn't make any sense that they're not saying yes. I mean, it's past every other stage of approval. It's past their CPDM, their cadastral, so their sort of mining board. Then it's past their environmental, and it's with the president for signature. And this is where it's sat for like a year on both of these permits. There's over 15 permits currently sitting with the president. A good thing, because he hasn't signed any. It's nothing specific to our permit.
This is general advice and my opinions only. This episode's company has paid me for this interview. I may be long, short, or hold an interest in stocks or CFDs mentioned. Past performance isn't reliable. The interviewee's views are their own, not necessarily mine. LEVRD operates as a corporate authorised representative 00131 8377 under AFSL 548573. You can find our financial services guide via the LEVRD website, link in the show notes.
Righto, bag holders and stop loss owners, courtesy of the Podwave studio. We're in the flesh today. Matt Wilcox from Predictive Discovery, after merging with Robex, going to be
PDI Gold.
PDI Gold coming up soon. Welcome to LEVRD, mate.
Thanks very much, Matt.
We got the site talk out before, so we keep it professional now. Mate, it's all been happening. You've, as you've said, on the path to potentially be 400,000 ounces by 2029. And the thing I find interesting at the moment from your days of being Matty the Mine Builder and coming from WAF fame and plenty of other African fame, PDI has got a bigger market cap than WAF at the moment with a project in development. How do you view that?
Oh, I think it just speaks to the absolute quality of Bankan, and just the cash costs we're achieving at Guinea at the moment. But Bankan, it's always been just a beautiful ore body, right? It's big, it's thick, it's wide, it's so easy to mine from an open pit perspective, and the underground will be pretty simple too. So it is a fantastic project. I've had my eye on it since Paul Roberts had it back in the day, and it's it's just fantastic to get a crack at it. So yeah, we're really, really happy to be there. So
I thought you'd help Rich out there and say he's undervalued a bit.
You look, Buchanan's pretty spicy, but they've done everything right. It's just been an unfortunate situation, right? So, but yeah, I guess they're undervalued, but yeah, you got to get your money out too. So it's the hard part.
How do you? You've spent years in Africa and been involved with WAF, and you look at. I'll just use WAF as an example. Executed flawlessly, printing absolute gutloads of cash, but there's things that are out of their control which flow into the share price. And now that you're a MD, mostly compared to just being dedicated mine builder, half your job is your share price now, not just building mines. How are you going to do it differently? How do you approach it, trying to get some value into an African stock?
Well, it's the same thing, right? If you execute well and you're always available for your investors, I think your share price flows from that. So it's if you're doing everything right, you can only control what you can control, and obviously WAF's got some things out of its control, but you can't manage that. You just have to focus on what you can control and do that well, and you will accrete value from that, I guess.
Why'd you pick Africa compared to Australia?
I don't know. Maybe I've read too many Wilbur Smith books, but I got the chance to go to Botswana early in my career, and from there it just sort of flowed to another one in Ghana and to another one in Mali, and then Burkina, Guinea, Burkina, one in Siberia, which is kind of off the radar a little bit, and then back to Côte d'Ivoire, back to Burkina, then back to Guinea. So it's
you're done now, mate. You got no hope of coming back.
Yeah, I know. You become a specialist, and you do it without even really thinking about it, right? That's where your career leads you. But yeah, now I wouldn't know how to build a mine in Australia. But Africa is easy. That's what we do.
Oh, this will see you through, mate. You'll be right. Right, I want to get into today everything about PDI. We'll talk jurisdiction a bit as well with Guinea. We'll talk the assets, and because there's your current producing ones and the big development project. We'll figure out which one's your favourite. Yep. But the deal, mate, the Robex merger, just quick insight into the boardroom? Did you think you'd lost it because you had it? Perseus got involved. You're like, oh, we're competing against Perseus now. You recut it to give the PDI side the majority. How close was it to going the other way?
Oh, it was a pendulum. It went back and forth a few times, I guess. And as I said, on the Sunday afternoon before the final thing, I got contacted by some investors. I'm going to stop calling them crazy Italians. They're very astute Italian investors. And they they just said, this is what we want to happen. And, we're a big holder of PDI. And they'd sort of colluded with a bunch of other investors. And they said, if you can come to this, I'm like, I can't go that far. And they're like, can you come to this number? And I'm like, okay, maybe that number. And then spoken to a bunch of my large investors. It all happened very fast on a Sunday afternoon. And, yeah, that was it. We went back to Predictive with their shareholders behind us and, the deal was done. But it was, it'd been up and down for a while before that. So, yeah, it was 4 or 5 months of like, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And then it finally happened, so.
Few head in your hands moments.
There's a lot of like late night phone calls. You're dealing across the globe. It's obviously Canadian scheme, so we've got Vancouver, we've got all these other things. That it's just constant around the clock. You'd be up late, up early, whatever, doing all these meetings, trying to keep the board informed, trying to like manage egos across both groups. It's fun when you look back at it. It's not so much fun when you're there at the time, but yeah.
What's Perseus up to with their little 9% still on the register? They're going to hang around.
Spoken to Craig and Leanne, they're happy shareholders like they're at the moment. I'd say they're going to hang around. They certainly don't need the cash, but it's obviously adds a bit of interest to have a corporate on the register. But we'll see. I guess we've made them a lot of money. They'd be happy shareholders, I guess, haven't they? Like they bought in mostly at 25 cents, and I think it was trading around $1 today, so. They can't be too unhappy.
Nah, but they obviously wanted the asset for growth. Do you think they'll be? You can't ever say that we're building something to give it away. But
you'd have to speak to them to know that. What their intentions are. Yeah, it's opaque to me. But they're definitely happy shareholders, and there's no animosity between us. We get along pretty well.
I'm just getting you ready for all the investor calls you're going to have to do. These are the questions I'll be ripping you, trying to suck an answer out of you.
I get it constantly. Well, it's funds that were on the Perseus side that they haven't treated us particularly well, but they're few and far between, so it's not too bad. So.
Mate, we'll get it out of the road. The exploitation permit, the make or break for Bankan. It will either be Bankan or Bankan-not. So where's it at? Like, just take us through what you can say about just what the process is, and probably some, I assume, some hidden frustrations.
There's 2 exploitation permits we're actually waiting on. There's Mansunia, which is an extension to the south of Guinea, and there's also Bankan. So we did a deck the other day purely just for government purposes in Guinea, and it's $5.2 billion worth of value just in taxes, royalties, and free carried interest over the next sort of 14 years. To the government of Guinea, and that's without income taxes, port duties, all the other sort of bits and pieces they pick up along the way. So it's a massive investment in Guinea. It's another $450 million investment. Plus, it just doesn't make any sense that they're not saying yes. I mean, it's past every other stage of approval. It's past their CPDM, their cadastry, so their sort of mining board. Then it's past their environmental, and it's with the president for signature. And this is where it's sat for like a year on both of these permits. There's over 15 permits currently sitting with the president, which is, it's disheartening. It's also like a good thing because he hasn't signed anything. It's nothing specific to our permit. So we don't really know, and this is the problem. We don't know why he's sitting on these permits. And, there's lots of speculation, but nothing I can really comment on or prove. And, you get no feedback from the Minister of Mines, the Minister of Finance on why he hasn't signed. It's just a question. He'll sign when he's ready. He's definitely going to sign. Just a question of when. So.
Not on holidays anywhere, or
well, he is at the moment, but I don't know if he's on holidays. But apparently he's in Kenya. But
yeah, right. So what's been the effect of like Simandou getting up and going? Like, is that? Did you always look at that as like possibly a positive to really get mining
Look, there's a
turbocharged?
ridiculous amount of infrastructure investment in the country, right? There's 840 bridges that have been built in the country in the last 3 years or something. You know, like obviously hundreds of kilometres of rail line, heaps of roads, heaps. So there's so much that has been built there, right? Which is great for us. But I mean, during the project itself, port congestion was epic, right? So we, you know, made finishing on time pretty difficult, but like, we still got it done. So it was, we certainly had to come up with some innovative solutions. You know, we used some of the ports in Sierra Leone and Liberia and trucked up, you know, which ended up sort of saving our schedule in the end of the day. So
Yeah. So is having Kiniero, is that how I pronounce it?
Kiniero, yeah.
Kiniero in operation in Guinea currently. Like what's, you know, how is that an ace up the sleeve? Like having the relationships is beneficial, or it sounds like it's just you're waiting on a signature. It's all up to one bloke.
Well, we're a big royalty payer now, and we're soon to become a very big taxpayer as well. So, like, you know, that all adds to our credence with the government of Guinea. So we're no longer just a begging junior with a cap in hand. We're a significant taxpayer in the country's economy. I'm pretty sure we mined more dirt than Rio did in that first quarter, which is really surprising considering, you know, the scales of the two projects. But yeah, I was pretty amazed to see their quarterly and how little that actually moved. But I guess that it's a long ramp up iron ore, but it's we're definitely paying more royalties than they are at the moment. So it's it's real, our project, and you know, we've definitely got more investment to bring into the country. And like Cankan, which is the region, like governor of sort of where our project is the president's region. That's where he's from. So I can't see why he wouldn't want development there. But yeah, who knows with the president? He's very insulated. You don't get to talk to him. It's a difficult situation like that. But
So let's hypothetically say this thing gets granted, which is going to just change every single conversation you're having, because I assume it's the first thing you get asked about every time an investor or a fund or anyone talks to you. Once it hypothetically does get granted, what's going to be the big topic? Is Bankan going to take over the focus of PDI gold, or is Kiniero the upside there? Or is it going to be a bit of a mix, do you think?
It'll be a bit of a mix. I mean, the operations team will focus on Kiniero, you know, until we sort of move in and start expanding towards Kiniero. They're pretty close, right? It's only 25 kilometres as the crow flies, and the road connection, there's a bridge being built across the river, so it'll only be 27 odd Ks apart. So it makes them almost one project, like a big expansion to a smaller project. But it's look, I think we've got a very firm development team, a very good ops team, and you know, the development team will take over. When we talk about shovel ready, we're really shovel ready. Like, we have got everything ready to hit the ground. Like, we'll be probably pushing trees over within a week of getting that permit. So it's really, we're very quick to invest. We've got all our major items tendered. We've started front end engineering and design. So we're really, now, if I get that permit in the next month, I could probably still pour gold next year, but it's on Bankan.
Yeah,
so
wow.
It's just a question of being able to get it in the time frame we need to. So,
can you send dirt to Kiniero?
Oh, look, it becomes complicated. Probably
because you got that pit to go down first before you put the portals in.
We don't need to send dirt at the moment. We've got plenty of dirt. So it's there's plenty of dirt that's closer, and we've got a big exploration push on at Kiniero to increase the reserve at the moment as well. So. And by the end of the last quarter of this year, we'll probably be drilling again at Predictive, probably looking for that sort of medium grade dirt to fill the mill above its sort of its nameplate capacity as we move forward over the price.
Yeah.
But Kiniero's got a lot of prospectivity, so is Bankan. We're going to, these things will be operating 20 years from now.
Mm. Yeah, well, I'll start on Bankan because in this gold price environment, very different to, maybe a decade ago, but the numbers do jump out of the page a bit, like the grades and everything, like 4.5 million tonne at 1.8 odd head grade. I know it's a open pit hybrid mix, but even a 1.3 open
it's amazing,
pit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're big these days where you're mining, sub one at Kiniero. Just take us through the metrics for those that don't know it for Bankan.
Look, it's sort of 1.8 grams per tonne or 1.6 over the life of mine, but it's, even the open pit is just, it's a beautiful big ore body. It slopes at the geotechnical angle, so the geometry is almost perfect. When you blast the pit, there'll be waste on one side or on the other. Like it'll be like there'll be almost no dilution across the faces. You know, it'll be really simple. There'll be one line down the middle. And, you know, trucks from here go to the ROM pad, trucks from here go to the waste dump. So it's, you know, and they've only really looked for that high grade. There's so much more to find there that'll add to that medium grade, especially if we increase volumes through the mill. So we're running a few optimisations, lots of scenarios now about when we bring the underground in, how we start it, where it starts in the pit, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of trade-offs, you know, in terms of your backfill methods, your stoping methods and stuff like that in terms of the underground also. But when we don't need that first year at 280,000 ounces to pay off debt, you know, we can fund this pretty much from our own, well, entirely from our own cash flow. So it's we just have to make sure the mill's got the capacity to do whatever. If we find more, we've got more to process in there. And we're very good at building mills that do more than they should for the nameplate. So
yeah. And I noticed on the grade distribution on the original study or for Bankan, like it's, you know, you got your pit and your underground mixed. I'll bring it up in the background, and it's like, you know, pretty steady at the start. But I guess the thing that everyone wants to know with open pits always like just grade distribution. Like, is it geometry sounds pretty consistent, but is the grade pretty evenly distributed as you mine through it?
For that solid deposit, it's very even, yeah. So it's not like, I mean, you could try and mine it, pre-mine it and get up to 2 grams a tonne, but there's no point doing that. You might as well just mine what you can and process it through the mill. So, but it's pretty steady over the life of mine. We'll have a very similar grade profile in year 1 that we have in year 12. So it's a beautiful deposit from a miner's point of view. You know, it's the perfect geometry of a pit, and maybe except for an inverted pyramid, but like, you know, being on that angle, sitting on basically the geotech slope angle makes it pretty nice to mine. So
made for you, mate. The God put that there for you, eh?
Yeah, the open pit will be. I mean, the underground will be big too. You know, it'll be big, huge stopes, like, you know, massive.
They look decent size. And is there multiple panels in the one level?
Yeah,
like it's not just a single 20
by 20.
It's a big wide
ore body down there.
Looks pretty chunky.
It's not like a 10 metre sort of WAF thing like that's super like 10 grams. It's 3.5 grams sort of in the open pit, but it's and in the underground, but it's huge. You know, you can almost block cave it. Not that you would, because you wouldn't be throwing away 3 gram dirt to. But yeah, it's you know, it's an underground mine of size for sure. You know.
Yeah, well, you won't have to worry about taking much waste out of the hole either, because it sounds like you'd be chucking it off in the guts of the stopes. Like those big ore bodies, there's so much backfill flexibility.
Well, we'll probably be taking underground ore back under there, like just to get the volumes required to backfill. You know, so it's at the moment the paste is the option, but paste doesn't always work well when you've got oxide in the blend. So there'll be significant deslimings in it. So we'll just look at that. You know, maybe in the first few years we look at something like, you know, cemented aggregate fill and then transition to paste. But there's a lot to think about anyway. We've just sort of really started digging into that sort of optimisation study now. And you're like, with a DFS, it's always conceptual, right? So it's somewhat rushed. So we've got a bit more time now to think about it. It's like the perfect way to actually mine it, because, you know, does the open pit get bigger? Do we start later in the underground? What happens? Do we increase the mill? Do we start? You know, there's lots of different options there. So
yeah, because then the one that was in the original study, like you pretty much got 30% of your feed in year 1 coming from underground, which is for a development project is not very
$60 million of underground development in that
yeah, and that's pretty uncommon to see that sort of production profile. Was there a reason it was that way? Was that just a maximising grade in the early years for payback?
Value in the IRR, yeah. So I mean, yeah, as I said, like you can run optimisations, especially when you got 2 mining methods forever to find the actual optimum blend, but they have to pick something to put a study out, right? So, but again, where that pit, that small pit, I can't remember the name of it, but the small pit that they mine out to basically start that underground to get access to the portal, that portal sort of sterilises that pit as well. So there's more value to be owned, but maybe starting a bit later in it. So we'll see. And plus there's some, you know, in the development drives, we probably need a bit more geotech data as well, just because obviously you drill your ore body, but you don't drill out your development as much. So we've got to get a bit of geotech there and understand the rock mechanics of it a bit better. So But yeah, look, it's a beauty. It's going to be fantastic. But we're just looking to make it better.
Yeah. Yeah, but I suppose the whole look of it's changed because you're coming from a point. Like, first question is, do you think you'd be able to bootstrap fund it with Kinero and Nampala?
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
No, well, just Kinero. Yeah, we'll fund it. It's so we accreted a fair bit of cash that quarter. Be the same this quarter, and at 4,500 gold, we could almost be paid off debt and funded Bankan by the end of next year. So it's and looking to pay a dividend in the first quarter or something. So it's it's moving towards that sort of position. So we're in a very good spot right now, printing a lot of cash and just moving towards a great development. That's more or less already funded. We've got 250 million plus in the bank. Really good lenders, that are happy to finance more without the plus, I guess, that you normally pay on West African debt. And it's it's just getting great.
Yeah, well, printing US 90 in a quarter.
Yeah.
Added to the balance.
Actual real money.
Yeah. It wasn't the common thing for gold miners.
Yeah.
But,
and it's actually, and the great thing about Guinea is you only have to repatriate half the funds as well. So only half of it ever goes back to Guinea. So you've got cash that's outside of the country. So, which is where a lot of other miners get stuck, I guess, especially in the sort of CFA, the Central African franc zone, where all of it has to go back into that currency, and then you've got leakage across the currencies, and it's tough. But we're pretty happy to be in Guinea at the moment, except for our little signature that we're waiting on. Everything else is going along swimmingly. Yeah.
So that US, I think the latest number is 463 mil for the capex. Is that going to get a bit outdated, do you think?
We're pretty confident we can overachieve on that, and we can do better than that.
Yeah, right. Is that your historical builds? Is that sort of your your jam trying to get under?
208. It's currently pushing around 7 or it's well over nameplate now. We're putting in probably about 30 or 40% more mining capacity in there. It depends how we optimise that underground, but I don't expect to spend that much money on there. We've done a very good detailed estimate as part of our DD, and I couldn't get to that number. So
very good. Where's the savings? Like when you come into these, you inherit these studies and you apply your own African time to it and your mine building experience, because you've been there, done it numerous times, more than some people have built mills that haven't built one before. What's your big ticket item straight away?
Straight away is probably EPCM costs, because we tender out our design. And our total engineering sort of design procurement services are less than sort of $10 million, I guess, for a build like this, whereas for, say, Nyamzaga is 50, So it's that's straight away. We just don't use consultants, and we don't use them anywhere near in the same scale and capacity as other mine builders. So you take $40-odd million straight out of it, on that. And just because we're able to do stuff in-house, I think we're just very efficient at what we do. Decisions get made quickly. We've got a team that all work together really well, and we move quickly. We know exactly what we want. There's no messing about. We know our buildings. We know our structures. We know everything. It's a good relationships with all our contractors, with our fabricators. Things move quickly. People know us, and we know them. So,
geez, your bloody hard drives would be worth a bit these days. For all the use,
definitely, it's all online now. Like, it's all in the cloud, I guess. But it is.
Check those passwords, mate.
I know it's definitely now to worry about being hacked. But they have to work out my esoteric sort of filing system. But it's there's certainly a lot of value in all that past data. It adds a lot of value to the project. And just knowing exactly how much everything's going to cost. And knowing that when you're getting ripped off or someone's charging you too much. So we're pretty good across most things. And our estimates are, I think Kinero was within 1 or 2%. It's the same with Abidjar. It's the same with Sembrado. They're very hard in, and we don't spend contingency. Contingency is for wimps, So
and I assume there's a bit of value to come in that now you've got the flexibility, and you can. Because I looked at that strategy and just thinking going underground parallel with mining pits, trying to get that in first year feed. Like, it introduced a lot of risk into the project, but now and look, it might still happen, but you've got but you've got flexibility now. You've got flexibility that you don't have to put pressure on underground getting there in time.
Well, I think so too. And if you get a bit more throughput through the mill, it takes away a lot of that pressure. Like if you're pushing 5-6 million tonnes, that sort of grade boosting from the underground can come later, and it's not going to bother anyone. And also we can look for more medium grade feed on the deposit. No one's ever looked for the 0.8s, 0.9s, sort of one. That stuff that takes you from 5 to 7, and at very little cost. Like the oxide, low mining costs, low strip, low reagent usage, low power usage. So it's ore's not ore. Like tough. There's hard ore, and there's hard obtained ore from multiple underground operations, and there's big wide stopes, and big thick deposits at surface. So no, we're pretty confident it's an ore body that's going to make a lot of cash. So
the underground, what's your best option? What are your options and your best options over there for mining it? Is it getting the expat workforce over there, like your RUMS and Bankan-not offshore?
RUMS and Bankan-not would be your obvious choices. I don't want to give much away. But yeah.
But they're better than the local. There's not really local options to go underground.
No one else is running twin boom jumbos down there. I mean, you've got to go there. Even Ghana, who sort of said all open pit mining has to be through local contractors, has said, well, for underground mining, they can be 50% owned by, because they're not confident to do it yet. So and Ghana have been underground mining for probably 100 years. But so yeah, I mean, I was pretty impressed with Bankan at Sombrado. They were a very professional unit when they came in. I guess haven't worked with AUMS, but I'm sure they're equally good. But then there's raise bore contractors, all the other things you got to sort of do. So it's a lot of ventilation. People sort of forget how much infrastructure requirements required for an underground mine, and you need stability of power as well, so which you don't need to run trucks and shovels. So yeah, but we've done it before. Sombrado was a good learning curve on that. But yeah, this is a somewhat larger scale. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the underground fell off 6 months or a year. We bring in it slightly later just to get that perfect optimization and get the right portal location as well. So. If you're starting in soft ground, it's obviously pretty hard to. It's a lot of like structural work required to make those drives safe. Whereas you're starting deeper in the pit, the rock's good. It makes it a lot easier. So.
I think the technical term, it's an absolute pain in the ass to develop through.
through anything soft, right?
Yeah, especially at the start. Yeah. The mill. So you've. So 4.5 million tonne at sort of 92.8% they've got, and it's getting grinded to 70 micron, which is 75, which is about your lower end.
It's a lower end for a general SOBC circuit.
Yeah. So and based on what you've seen before and what might be coming up here, like, is there upside downside risk to that? Because like with 4.5 million tonne going through at that grind, like if it's a coarser grind and a bit higher recovery, it makes a material difference to the metrics on the operation.
I through my career of always putting in mills with more milling power than what's required generally just to do nameplate. And so I think it's very cheap and easy to do that at the initial build stage to put more grinding power on those mills than it is to put it in later. It's almost impossible to put in later. It's at a large cost, whereas making that mills, which is the real heart of your process plant, bigger at the start, you can always whack more crushers, put secondaries on, put more pebbles, like all that sort of stuff. But it's very hard to redesign your milling circuit after you started. So yeah, the mills will be appropriately sized. We'll certainly do nameplate.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But is there flex to chuck more through it at coarser grind if it starts performing well, or you just don't know until you're doing it?
I don't think you'll be at coarser grind. I think the metallurgy is relatively clear to get that kind of. You don't want to really lose 2 or 3%. It's just too valuable in this gold price. But yeah, we just make sure there's enough milling power in there to get to get more throughput than the nameplate. That's kind of how we always do it. No one ever blames you for building a bigger mill later. Like it's you certainly get some questions from the board in the early stages. But like, once the plant starts up, everyone's because GO is generally always on the optimistic side, or not always, but you generally it's rare you see a project that gets well above their resource model grade, right? It's it certainly happen that you get well below. So it's if you can't get the grade, it's always better to push tons, right? So it's and having that ability to push tons saved a lot of projects.
But if the board starts whinging, just remind them about the 40 mil you already saved on the in-house design.
Oh look, the board's going to be happy.
I know probably not fair to ask you to compare it to Australian dirt, but is dirt over in Africa, is it grind sensitive? Is it some places different to others? Or
every ore body's different, I guess. Even pits in the same sort of project are different. But yeah, it's definitely, that Birimian greenstone, you sort of got a 1 to 5 metre laterite cap, which is similar to the laterite we get there. It doesn't really have the same sort of pea gravel. It's more angular, but it's very similar to that laterite you find all over Western Australia. And then you've got, it's the depth of that saprolite that buries around Africa. And you find like down in your coastal plains like Côte d'Ivoire and stuff like that, there's less saprolite, so it goes in the fresh within 20 metres, 30 metres, whereas on those Guinean plateaus and in Burkina and all that, it's generally, it's somewhere between 80 to 100 metres of saprolite, and that's where your money is. It's just so easy. It's got strength that it doesn't crumble too easy either, but it really easy to dig, really easy to process. Uses hardly any reagents and no power through the mill. So Bombwork's always overestimated in saprolites. So yeah, you generally get better mill throughputs than what your design was, but yeah, it's not a bad thing. So
is Bankan pretty similar met and dirt to Quinero, considering it's 25 k's away, or are they different style deposits?
I guess Bankan's got shallow oxidation, so it goes into the fresh a little bit earlier. Like so, it's 40, 50 metres, whereas we pretty much at Quinero, all our reserves are still in saprolite, just about. We don't have any fresh in it. So just because last year we didn't have any money to drill, so it was when we hit fresh, RC rates go up, so we stopped drilling more or less. But we've got a lot of rigs on site now. Hopefully one of them can actually start doing some meters. But we'll be getting a lot more definition on not the underground, but the deeper fresh rock stuff at Quinero as we move on. But it'll be similar. Like nothing there is that different, unless you get like a Siama or something like that, where there's some really big refractory sort of resources. But yeah, it's pretty Birimian greenstone sort of material. I'm not a GO, mate, but it's,
Oh, you sound close enough,
mate. It just looks like rock, anyway.
Well,
it's die right.
We'll get on to Quinero in a bit, because we don't want to leave the child that's making all the cash for you at the moment. But and I assume you're advantaged at Bankan just because you got an existing operation 25 k's away. But just insight into the infrastructure, like the power to go in, roads or anything. Like, is it an established area? Like, what is the power going to be?
There's road. I mean, they've just finished building a highway that runs right past Carusa, which is right on doorsteps of Bankan. So you've got a road connection to Conakry, which is pretty important. But apart from that, all the infrastructure's on you. You got to put your power in. You got to, everything. The roads between us will connect. It's going to be, and we'll probably put power and comms between the two sites as well, so we have a bit of flexibility. There might be one control room at both sites. There's certainly, you can share load from both the power stations and stuff like that if you need to, and it just saves you blackout protection and all that kind of stuff as well. So it's look, it's always easier to start with something than start with nothing. And 25 k's isn't far. At the moment it probably takes an hour. We've got a long way around, but we'll probably get that down to less than half an hour. So it's, we're not going to share mills, but we can certainly share a lot of everything else. Share skills. You need one PLC expert between both sites in case things go really bad, and some other things like that. But it'll make it a lot easier than starting from absolute nothing. But it's we'll move along.
Hybrid power stations, or
Look, yeah, there's definitely solar. It's starting pretty soon, but for the most part, it's heavy fuel oil. So it's big, medium speed generators. So similar to what ships run on, I guess, like that. So it's less sensitive to sort of oil prices than what you might think. So it's the whole world shipping runs on heavy fuel oil, and that's what everywhere outside of Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana pretty much runs on in terms of their thing. I mean, people talk about grid, but you've got to put in some sort of backup. There's no African grids that are that stable. And, where the choice is whether it's high-speed diesels at relatively high cost of operation and low capex, or low OPEX, high capex sort of heavy fuel oil. And, over the long term, the heavy fuel oil just beats it every time, medium speed generators.
Any of them run on like the gas hybrid stations?
We don't really have gas, and you'd have to build pipelines and put in infrastructure that you just doesn't exist in Africa. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless
so
you want to fill it with little, 20 kilo bottles. But,
is Kinera. So you got 9 years on the list there to go.
It's going to be.
What's the upside?
Oh, look, I reckon it'll double. I mean, obviously market sensitive, not
forward-looking statement.
Forward-looking
everyone.
statements. Yeah, I'll put in a disclaimer. But it's just we just didn't. Everywhere we drilled, we found resources. We just didn't have that. We had limited money to drill, so it'll get bigger. Like, there's no doubt about it, and it'll grow. It'll grow this year. We'll probably add a couple more years to it this year, and then the year after it'll be the same. So I'd be very amazed. It's a big package of land, and I'll be amazed if it doesn't get past 20 years eventually. So.
Where's all your drill? Where's Bankan at on the drilling compared to Kinera? Like, you're going to be focusing on drilling Kinera while you develop and
Bankan's already got a pretty good. So there isn't at the moment. There's no current budget. So we've got about 130,000 metres of drilling. It's all around Kinera. It's all on the existing mining permit, and then we've probably got. I don't know, we'll probably look to put something in towards the end of the year in Bankan, probably looking for near pit oxides, near mill oxides, and just things to bump up that first couple of years production just with cheap easy oxides.
Yeah, so where is there underground growth there? Like, is it gonna, it could be anything.
Well, we don't know. We don't know where the underground finishes. It certainly extends at depth, but, obviously drilling undergrounds from surface is expensive, and, you're never going to get. Well, it's pretty hard to make an indicated resource, but it's impossible to be measured. So you're not going to know till you're down there. But there's no reason to think it stops, anytime soon. You might end up going, and it'll be gold price dependent. You might end up with refrigerated down. You might be a K.5 deep. I believe Sombrado's going refrigerated this year. They've got money in their budget for it. So it's it could, if gold stays at 4,500 an ounce, you'll be mining there for a long time. Just get deeper and deeper.
So if as you said, big package, like if you found another pit at Kinera.
Oh, we will find another pit, yeah.
How easy in Guinea is to start mining a new pit on your existing
lease? It's on our mining
lease?
permit. We don't have to do anything.
So it's no different. Just
go in there with shovels.
Yeah. Do you need the individual pits permitted? So it's better than so if you've got an existing mining permit in Guinea,
you can mine anywhere on it. Obviously, you need to compensate or whatever. If there's farmers or something like that, you've got to compensate, but that's it. Yeah. So you've got to make a deal with your local community, and they have to buy into it. But that's pretty easy for the most part. We pay a lot more than they're making from the land, so it's. But yeah, you literally are mining pits hundreds of square kilometres, and you can just start mining anywhere on it. Yeah.
Oh, right. So it's
pretty
poor old Africa gets hammered compared to Australia, but that sounds like once you've got a mining permit, it's much easier.
From a permitting perspective, especially from this presidential, signature level, Africa's simple. It's quick, it's easy, so I can't complain there. And certainly from a labour perspective, I mean, you've got no shortage of labour in West Africa, which is sort of, I know, Canadians and Australians, labour is pretty much how they constrain their mines to some extent. How much can the camp hold? Like we don't have those. You think it's sort of isolated, but there's actually big communities and big labour forces right near you, pretty much everywhere you are in Africa. So, it's still really populated. So, yeah, it's sort of there's some good parts about Australia, and there's certainly some bad parts. And there's all this sovereign risk, I guess, but Australia is not immune to changes in taxation law, as we're about to find out tonight. So So yeah, we'll see as we go. But yeah, Guinea's been a good place to be. So
Is what I just I've seen what WAF's done with local workforce and everything like that for their operations. Is that essentially how, for the open pits, for instance, like how does that work? Is there contractors for that, or is it a local workforce or local owned
we're
gear?
always local workforces. I mean, like that's your commitment to the community you move into, that you're going to supply them as much jobs as you possibly can and provide as much training and support to the community as you possibly can. And that extends outside of just going into mining. We train for all kinds of skills that are, won't be necessarily employed on mines, but, carpentry, basket weaving, all kinds of things. So part of our sort of commitment to our local community. But, in terms of, obviously it's cheaper to get people from the local community than it is to bring in expats. Why would you bring in an expat if you don't need to? And that expat really has to understand they're there for a training role. They're there to upskill the local community. They're not there forever. And sometimes it's hard to break expats out of that sort of mindset that they want to protect their own jobs. But, ideally an expat is working themselves out of a job by training locals to take over the role. People forget this about Africa too, is that your local community is very local. Like, you're talking within sort of 10, 15 kilometres. If you bring someone from Conakry that's Guinean but not local, they're considered probably even worse than an expat. So you've got to be careful there. You can't just... But yeah, we've also got like the ECOWAS zone, so you can bring, without any real visa or anything like that, you can bring people from all over the West African, so Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, Ghana, all this stuff without any real paperwork as well. So it's a pretty easy system, and it makes it, and bringing in expats isn't particularly difficult in Guinea, not like it is in Ghana at the moment or some of those countries. But yeah, we managed to, we've never really had to think to stay under any kind of local quotas, because we've always been well under them anyway. So it's, we've always, where we could, we employ locals, and we've trained them. And, some of the locals we've started with 15 years ago are now like our senior guys, and they're essentially expats, from Burkina or something like that, and they're being paid 10 grand plus a month to come there and essentially tell the locals what to do. So it's interesting. But yeah, we've got a good workforce from all over the continent. So
I talked to plenty of fellas that have worked in Africa as expats, and they, different to Australia, like working with the local workforce, can be, frustrating could be the word. But I do look at it from the opposite lens of the ASX, some of the ASX mining companies that miss guidance the most are the Australian ones, the Australian operations, and the Africa ones do execute. So is there different expectations over there, or is the performance over there not a bit different to what people say that are working over there?
Oh, look, I imagine it's pretty hard to just keep and train staff in Australian mines at the moment as well. Can you imagine you've got some, two 18-year-olds turn up and they're truck drivers all of a sudden, they've never been on a mine site, whereas, and that kind of happens every month on an Australian mine, but the guys value their jobs and their positions long-term in Africa. So once they're there and they're in place, they really value their jobs, and they're kind of rock stars in their local community. It's like winning the lottery a bit, getting a job on a mine,
just all jumbo operators.
Yeah. Well, they're not covered in tats and everything that FIFO workers are here, but they certainly they do value their jobs and their long-term employments, and we don't struggle with workforce, week to week, day to day. Sort of put in place one time, and you might fill 10 roles a year, let alone God knows how much turnover is in some of these Australian mines, but it's certainly a lot higher than what we're experiencing.
What about quality control for underground and open pits? Is it?
Well, you obviously need competent people, but they've been mining in West Africa for a long time. We've got competent people, and we've got expats as well where it's required. But it's mistakes are made occasionally. A truck loaded with waste ends up on the wrong pad, and vice versa. But that happens everywhere.
In Australia too.
But yeah, look, I think it would be pretty on par with Australia in that sort of. I think if anything, we're probably underground different. Burncut, most of their expats will be in the jumbos for the first couple of years, I'd say. Because you need that production, and the jumbos are pretty important in terms of advancing your drives and stopes and whatnot. But it's and underground obviously is inherently more dangerous and more, needs a lot more skill and a lot more training. There's a lot of skills that are transferable from everyday life, not everyday life, but normal, like truck drivers, excavator operators, dozers, things like that. These guys can work in multiple fields, whereas underground is very specific to underground mining. So
less forgiving.
Well, and there's a lot less underground mines in Africa than there are open pit, or at least in West Africa. So you have to bring in real skills, and you have to really follow first world safety standards through the whole thing. Like we've seen some disasters, both in Western countries and in Africa. So we hopefully, we'll bring in competent contractors. There's no doubt for that underground mining, and they will impart skills to the nationals, and eventually they'll be more or less doing it themselves. So
is there much underground mining in Guinea at the moment across
Nord
the
Gold
board?
have gone underground, but it's kind of difficult to get the information out of there. Obviously they're under sanctions, but I still have a few contacts there. But I believe they're block caving without fill, mostly Kazakhs, but with twin bone jumbos, it's sort of apparently they're running Sandvik gear, so I'm sure Sandvik doesn't acknowledge that publicly, but there's sanctions and whatnot against the Russians, against Alexei Mordashov specifically. But they are mining there. So there's one, but whether there's an actual existing underground mining code, I don't know. We might have to end up writing it for them, but it's
That's what happened at Côte d'Ivoire, wasn't it?
Côte d'Ivoire, with Yari, and they more or less, you just borrow the Burkina one and make whatever adjustments you need. But you've got some big groups, and I imagine the burn cuts and the AUMS will be interested in tendering there and setting up things. So imagine we're right in their target range, but we haven't tendered it yet, but we will eventually. But it will be probably one of those two groups. I can't imagine anyone else would do it in West Africa.
Yeah, so you're going to be waiting for exploitation permit, FID, and then go out to tendering?
We'll probably tender them pretty soon. As soon as we've redone the mining optimisation, we don't want to tender and then work out we're putting back mining a year or something like that. But it's and we're moving forward with vent studies and paste studies and stuff like that now, while we've got but it's hard to do paste studies until you've actually got real underground rock. You can do so much with core, but you when you've got the blend of oxides and other things in there, you really want to make sure your paste is. So we'll see, but it's but the first few stopes, as I said, probably won't be paste. My guess is they'll be cemented aggregate, sort of maybe top down or maybe bottom up. I'm not sure, but we're looking at all that stuff now, and with a real view to do it as well as we possibly can.
Oh mate, there's some funky stuff you can do with an ore body like yours. Like you can have like slots going straight through the guts and pour rock in the middle and just paste the outside of the rock, and then that's your void for your next stope. There's some free consultant for you right there, mate.
Well, Australia's probably, I can't imagine anyone in the world that's better underground miners. Like I think we're teaching the Yanks how to twin boom jumbo and stuff at the moment. They've never really done it the same way we have. So I think our skills are probably the best in the world for underground mining. I've certainly seen the Russians do it. It's not very nice.
Oh, definitely the fastest. Like because I've worked there for a while. Like it is go, and like you can just see why underground mines over here can miss guidance so easily, because like it's guided to perfection, and and everyone's like, can't you just speed this up? It's like you're insinuating that we're not working our ass off every day, like you're going as mad as you can every day.
The ore body, you're drilling holes every 20 metres or 20, whatever your spacing is. Like when you actually get there and you see the ore body, it's never what it's supposed to be. Like there's other bits of it to grab, and if you don't grab it, then you sterilise it. So it's you have to stop and adjust your stopes as you do it. Right, it's not an exact science. No underground mines to plan. Long term anyway. They always change it up, like as you actually see on the face. It's it's interesting. I don't know, it's certainly adds another aspect of complication to African mining, but it's nothing we haven't done before. So it's nothing a good competent contractor won't get you over. So
yeah, it's in their best interest. Nampala, your Mali asset, the forgotten child. Is that going to become? And when I say Mali's a bloody big country, and you're in the southwest, like pretty bloody close to where you are,
sort of thing. It's not far from the Côte d'Ivoire border, but look, it's still.
Any issues there with all the insurgents or other end?
I think as a rule, the JNIM or whoever they are have basically they're looking for a regime change, and for that regime to change and for them to stay in power, they need those mines running. So that it's a very much do not touch on the mines policy.
Yep.
And you've seen that with B2, with Barrick to a lesser extent, I guess, because they have had operations interrupted, but with Syama, with all the mines down there, everyone's still mining through this whole thing, almost not completely uninterrupted. So
yeah, is that going to become pretty non-core, that asset?
Oh, it's totally non-core now.
It already is.
It's compared to the amount of money we're making out of Guinea, it's pretty much it was already a difficult jurisdiction. So we'll look to make a decision on that sometime this year, hopefully, and see what we do. We have worked with the government of Mali. It's been tough, and the security situation is not getting any easier. It's certainly, but people are still operating there. People are still building there. So it's you can make it work. You can make it done. And we, as a team, we've been through. Geez, I can't even remember how many different political coups and military coups and popular uprisings and
By the coup was the term, wasn't it?
Oh, mate, coups, diseases, like outbreaks, whatever. Like you've been through it. You always keep mining. So it's it's been fun, but certainly it's a different career. Doing mines, much longer stints, much. Guys are generally there for 6 weeks at a time. So it's people are a bit more close than you'd be on an Australian mine site. Everyone has to get along. You can't just go back to your room every night. You go crazy. So, yeah, we're a much closer knit bunch of guys than what you would see on, I imagine, like first world sites.
Is like I say, it all goes well, which I'm sure you're in the business to make it do that.
It'll go well.
How do you pitch it to? Well, is it a constant battle? Just saying, look, we're printing all this cash. We're in Africa, but trying to get valued like an Australian stock that isn't printing near as much cash as that you're going to. How do you pitch that to the?
I've never
the
really
funds
been
and everything?
too concerned about it. You know what I mean? Like they sort of know what their African discounts are, and they adjust their MPVs depending on the jurisdiction. But I can't work out how some of the Australian miners are valued, especially when you see their actual cash accretions and they're almost backwards. But yeah, I'm happy to be where we've been with the massive cash margins we're making at the moment. It's pretty good. It's a good time to be in gold. I'm pretty happy. You can only change what you can change. I can't change where we're mining. I can't change where the ore body is. But as long as you're doing everything you can do, everything else sorts itself out.
Do you ever think about long term doing similar to what Emerald is doing, like you have your overseas core asset that makes the money, but then bringing an Australian asset in to sort of change the perception of the company, or is that's not the core business?
It's not really, and I guess people invest in you, and your major investors are there for that African exposure as well. So you start messing around and changing up your jurisdictions, you can. Yeah, but again, you go where the gold is. If you get offered a great ore body and it's got great economics, it doesn't really matter where it is. If you can build it, execute it, mine it, make money. So, we're in the money-making business, not the gold mining. It's not about how much gold, it's about how much money we make. So wherever the asset is, we've gone there, and, we've done one in southern Siberia at sort of 2 kilometres altitude. That was, without a doubt, the hardest job I ever did. So just glad I'm not there.
You really took Africa
it's a dry site
to a new level going to Siberia.
Yeah, that's a dry site too. So it was that made it really, really just depressing.
I think Pogo's like that too. I think in Alaska, I think that's a dry site.
Yeah, I think it's because of inherent risk. If you walk out in the snow and you're drunk, it's pretty easy to freeze to death, I guess.
Oh, I'd do that for sure. Yeah,
and I think a lot of their local community, maybe alcohol's doesn't mix too well, but Jeez, I can't do it.
So I assume your biggest job if all this goes well, I'm not going to say forward looking it is definitely, but it's capital management. It's like if you're printing African cash, it's like, right, what are we going to do with it? Do we keep growing? Or
the question is, what's next? That's the next question after when I get my permits. But yeah, what's next is we've got a growth ambition, I guess. So we'll be ready for the next asset when it comes along. And it's not always, you can't always make a deal. You got to be there long enough to actually make it work. So, we've got our eyes on a lot of things right now, and if they come available, we'll be ready to make a deal, hopefully. So we'll, like transition, that sort of make a deal phase is definitely something you've got to grow into. But it's been a reluctant M&A sort of in a lot of reluctant M&As over the last few years. So I've been sort of baptism of fire with a hostile over Tieto and a big merger through a Canadian scheme and with Robex / Predictive. So we've started to build up a sort of repertoire of M&A. So certainly understanding a lot better now. So.
A little period breather wouldn't hurt you, but hey, just to get over the last one.
I can do without the 17-hour days for a while when you're trying to get those deals finished, especially when they're across multiple jurisdictions. But it's and you've got board and management in different countries across the whole thing. God, it becomes a nightmare. But it's just not working around the clock for a few months would be nice.
I
just slowly progress and start. It will be just have a normal build operation period. It'd be nice.
Very good. Oh, mate. Well, cheers, Abe, for coming on LEVRD, and we're all rooting for you, mate. That it all just gets signed and you can start building mines again. So I'm sure you're looking forward to it.
We're not doing nothing, so it's we're progressing it, even if it's slightly slower pace than we'd like to be doing it. We are moving it forward. So.
That first bit of concrete's going to be satisfying.
Yeah, well, it's not that far away, hopefully, but that's how we are.
Very good, mate. Cheers again.
Thanks very much, Matt. Cheers, mate.